how many people like to examine their own belief system? It's very unpleasant because you have to start from zero. So imagine I delete your Islamic knowledge and start from scratch. There's no Prophet Muhammad. There's nothing. Okay,
Right.
how does the universe begin? And here we go. So it's very unpleasant. Most people don't engage there because it makes them uncomfortable. They have to change their life then. They don't want to do
Right.
it. 99% of people, they don't want to talk about this because, yeah, it's unpleasant. Even Muslims don't talk about this.
Yeah.
So this is the case, like how many people are willing to go and change their belief system? Very little. But I had to
Right.
because I didn't have a solid worldview. It was very shaky and I lived very depressed life, I would say. Like my dunya-wise life was very different to what I live now. So your belief system will impact the way you live. It's just logical. So that was my entrance in Islam was more like irrational. And then it's not enough. Like Islam is not rational only. There's multiple layers. Like your salah is not rational, for example, or how many rakah you do. It's not rational. It's based on the submission. Like at some point you have to just submit, and that's the goal of Islam, to just achieve that submission. And it's never done because you can forever just try to follow. There's so many things you can follow, right? So I had to get my head around that. It's a very difficult concept for people in the West to grasp, that I have to submit to something, but this is the case.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I always thought that Islam is quite a simple religion and it's welcoming to everyone. It's very easy for people to enter the religion. But as you mentioned, it takes effort to be a practicing Muslim, right? To, do your prayers, pay your zakat, fast, adjust your behavior. And I feel like, as you said, a lot of people perhaps are scared of being convinced because of what that would require of them in terms of behavior change. Speaking of that, what do you think is I guess unique in your personality or your upbringing that motivated you to actually complete that path and not just stop, with the questions leading to where they were leading? Why did you decide to go down that path? Because it's a really tough path, especially someone from Slovakia. The society there is not really that friendly to Muslims. They don't have a good impression of them. Why even go through that hassle? What was the sort of motivation for you to do that?
I think it's most reverts. They come from these environments. Their motivation is finding truth or some meaning. And it doesn't matter if we disappoint our culture or society. Like the purpose of life is more important than your race, your country, your language. All these things that are born into. Like I have no choice but just like I was born in this country. The way I look, the way I speak, but the only choice I really make in my life is what I really believe, right? And also Islam, when it rules over society, it classifies people based on the belief system. Like this is, I don't know, Ahlul Kitab, this is, Dhimmis, and you have different classifications, not based on race or color, but based on like, what's your Aqidah, what's your belief? And this is how we're going to treat, because it's the only thing you choose. Like nothing else you choose. You can't classify people based on race because it's unfair, because you didn't choose the race or your nationality. And so for what led me to complete it, it was just this pursuit of like trying to understand the world, trying to understand the existence. I think some people have this. I had this from my childhood. I had like always this obsession with the universe. Like even at my school, like very early on, my teacher asked me like, what's your dream to do? And some kids would say to have a car or a house or whatever. And I would say, I want to go to the edge of the universe and see what's at the end of the universe. Like as a young boy, I said this as a 6-year-old.
Right.
And I would always have this in my kind of mind, even though I was pretty jahil in my behavior later on. But this was always something I tried to figure out. And I thought that there's no answer, of course. I thought like it doesn't exist, which made me very depressed. But then I realized, hold on a second, it's not necessarily true. I'm just like very affected by society and whatever I'm reading, but it might be the case that there is an explanation for this. So it took years to be honest, I don't really believe in these like quick shahadas or what I see on YouTube, because it's not real. Like, you cannot accept Islam. Like, it doesn't make sense, because, for example, just learning how to pray took months, and there's so many like four madhabs. They all differ. Like, how are you gonna pick which madhab you follow if there's no madhab in your country? If there's no sheikh, if there's no teacher, you're just gonna have a YouTube sheikh. And YouTube sheikh is very, very, very dangerous. This is what leads to many extreme ideas. And this is why, I've built a masjid here in Slovakia now with a couple of guys, reverts, and we are like physically meeting and doing some lectures. And alhamdulillah, it's the best thing that ever happened. And we know we have this need for a teacher, because you cannot understand the Quran and Sunnah. There's no way. We don't have the Arabic. We got the interpretations and stuff, but you cannot derive fiqh or Sharia or whatever. Even the way you pray, you cannot understand it. You have to go to what's been out there, like to the thousands of years of history, and the chain of narrations and all this. Like, it's there for a reason. Like, why are you coming up with your own things if you can just go to the great scholars who have memorized like 400,000 hadiths or something insane like this? Like, you can't compete there. Like, it's impossible. Like, just that's somewhere where we are right now, but it's 3 years in the journey. In the beginning, I just learned through YouTube, but it's not enough. It's good for the beginning, of course, because you need to practice. You can't just wait 5 years to learn to pray, because there's always another opinion how to make wudu. There's always going to be someone else to show you, no, this is bid'ah, or this is this. Okay, but I need to start. I don't have time to go through these debates as a revert, because I don't even understand what you're saying to me. So I just took some basic stuff that I know is like, but I was mixing it. So I took something from Hanafis, from this, I didn't even know these things, but I just needed to make my salah, make my wudu, pay my zakah, and do all these things, The rest,
Sure.
But this is the main challenge. It's easy to get into Islam. It's very difficult to practice
Right.
because there's no Slovak guide. Everything is in English, which is fine for me, but many of our readers, they don't speak English. So they're kind of actually stuck. They just go based on the Quran, and that's very difficult. There's no explanation how to pray there in detail.
Problem. I had no idea there was so few resources in Slovak about Islam.
Even English is very horrible, because if you Google,
Right.
like if you Google how to pray, you get thousands of websites, all different. They make so much. Some of them are completely wrong. So it's like, there's no. I've realized this. I don't know how to solve it. I don't think it's solvable, but there's nothing to do for reverts. And it's never going to happen, because no one understands the revert journey, because it's such a custom journey. I don't know how to solve it, but maybe in the future.